This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
The Minnesota Vikings possess the 24th overall pick in the 2025 National Football League draft.
You don't want some Wolves back talkbacks, PA?
Yeah, let's hold off on them momentarily.
Okay.
And the fan has learned we have the 24th overall pick, and this is the Friday football feast. We whether it's running backs, whether it's Gray Zabel, whether it's offensive linemen, we've talked so much about some of these draftable players. Our draft coverage, you happen to top of the head know, is provided by. And I'm sorry to catch you off guard
that's
there.
fine. It's Heating and Cooling 2, and you can go to heatcool2.com to learn more, all of your heating and cooling needs, and thank them for bringing us draft coverage.
When does our draft coverage start, by the way?
What do you mean?
Well, draft day.
Like
let's advance to Thursday.
Yeah.
I know the Power Trip is doing their much ballyhooed 20th anniversary mock draft,
Okay.
and you and I will be a part of that. Nor you might be too. I'm not sure.
I am, yes.
Yes, you are. Then we'll have, I assume, a day of regular programming.
You'll
have
open 9 to noon
show
with Nordo and I. That's tradition.
Yeah, I would like to do that if you don't mind. Then we'll reconvene late afternoon, early evening, right?
Our radio show begins at 7.
At 7.
We are beginning
That
at
is
7.
correct.
And it will be a different type of draft radio show this year compared to following, okay, here are the Raiders. Let's speak for 3 minutes on whether they should take Shedeur Sanders or Ashton Genty. So like Jared Allen's going to join. There are a lot of moving parts.
Get a late HOF in the house.
Yeah, it's very fluid right now. But I do know the show begins at 7. So 3-2. So we've talked a lot about the tier 1-ish type players, and we will today and next week up to the 2025 draft, which takes place in Green Bay, Wisconsin. But what about the tier 2 guys? And you know, we got about 7-8 minutes to spend on this. Paul put together a list of some tier 2 Vikings draft pick possibilities. Ooh. What's the premise for this? Why'd you come up with this idea?
The premise is we've spent so much time leading up to the draft, as we always do, talking about the key team needs. Cornerback, safety, defensive tackle, guard. I think those are, we've focused 80% of our conversations into those spots, and rightfully so. And those are the picks, those are the positions that will likely be addressed first, or at least substantively in this draft by Kwesi. But what are the tier 2 needs? What are some of the depth spots? Where does this team maybe have older players, or you need to backfill some spots and do some succession planning? What else could this team do with the limited draft capital that we've got today? Where could they maybe surprise us with some other positional needs? Let me hit you with this one.
Go on with it now.
Tackle. Right now, our starting left tackle in week 1 is
Justin School.
And now he's got a little experience. It would not be like end of the world, but you can see where this team could potentially pick up a tackle at some point and try to solidify what is ultimately a very important position, even though they've got their starting right and left tackles for the near future.
They do have Walter Rouse, who they drafted last year. Now, he didn't play last year, but he's in the mix too.
He is. I watched him a lot in the preseason because I was really optimistic about Walter Rouse. Honestly, I didn't love what I saw last year, with the right for him to get better in year 2. How about this? Tier 2 draft need? Quarterback. Right now, our backup quarterback's Brett Rippon, and apparently they love Brett Rippon inside the organization. They've done a lot to keep him all this time. But you know this, PAX, we've been talking about this, Nordo, for, 15 years. You always draft a quarterback until you have your franchise quarterback. And right now, we don't know if we've got our franchise quarterback. We hope we do, but we don't know that. Could use a backup behind J.J. McCarthy. That's a tier 2 possibility at some point in this draft. How about wide receiver? There isn't a lot behind Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, You have Naylor, who could he made a handful of splashy plays last year, but not a lot more than that. Rondell Moore's a total question mark coming off his knee injury. Lucky Jackson. This is not deep. Wide receiver is a position that this team could look at later in the draft as well. How about running back? Aaron Jones, 30 years old. He's got 1,800 touches. There's not a ton of tread left on that tire, right? He's probably in the final quartile of his career. Aaron Jones with somebody to back up Aaron Jones. In this, the deepest running back draft maybe ever, it's easy to see this team putting day 3 equity into the running back position because you're going to get a player who in a different season would have gone maybe day 2, or maybe a 3rd rounder that slips to the 5th round, or a 4th rounder that slips to the 6th round. So running back makes sense. And I'll give you one more tier 2 draft need. Mm-hmm. How about linebacker? I think this team could be used very specifically an athletic, fast coverage.
Inside guy?
An inside guy who can cover.
You got Cashy, you got Pace. Eric Wilson is back in the mix while you were away.
Pace does a lot of things really well. Coverage is not one of them. If you could find an interior guy who can help you in coverage more than Pace does, that could also be a day 3 pick. So there you go. That for me is your tier 2 draft needs: tackle, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, linebacker. We've spent so much time talking about the other positions, but those are all spots where you could backfill day 3 and maybe give yourself some help down the road.
Digging it. If you missed the beginning of the show, we are giving away Timberwolves tickets to Game 3 next Friday against the LA Lakers. We are doing so via the free iHeartRadio app, where you have 30 seconds to formulate an opinion on how you think the Wolves can beat the Lakers. Timberwolves are underdogs. And finish your talk back with a howl. And we've had several, and we're going to play more back the next segment. But file those reports, free iHeartRadio app. The old schoolers, those of the savvy variety, know how to do it. Bam, bam. If you're new to it, free iHeartRadio app, please download it and offer up a talkback on how the Wolves can beat the LA Lakers, and conclude it with a howl like you hear 9 to noon. Final segment of the show, we are going to pick a winner, give away a couple of tickets to the Timberwolves and Lakers Game 3. The sports wheel that is 9 to noon rolls into the NBA the next 2 segments. NBA playoff stuff next segment, then Alan Horton, the talented radio Vox, old school, best school, for KFAN and the Timberwolves Radio Network. He's in Los Angeles. Wolves Radio will join us at about 10:40. But first, we have this.
The Fan, along with BigDeck.com, want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword win. You might win $1,000. Keyword is win at KFAN.com. Speaking of talkbacks, how about some Wolves back talkbacks?
Hey, this is Pete from Hopkins. I think the Wolves win in 5 because we got better defense, stronger rebounding, height and power down low. I think Rudy's going to go off and show why we made the trade, and we're going to do well. I also think the Wild are going to win because Fleury's on revenge tour and he's getting back on the Golden Knights. So let's go Wild, let's go Wolves.
Thank you, Mandan.
All right, now.
By the way, is Fleury going to start? I assume Fleury's not starting.
He's
right?
not going to play a minute unless something goes bad.
Right.
No, but he's let's send Fleury out in style. He's playing. His team is playing against its former team.
Yes,
I understand what he was talking
about.
Do
it for the flower.
Thank you.
That howl was high end, by the way.
Well, see now here's the conundrum, and at least for me, potentially the conundrum for the likes of Ralph, Kenyatta, Mitch, Joel, Hunter, Lance, Brandon, and so on. Pete said his name, but he also hit on the Wild, which I thought was a kind gesture. Mm-hmm. So we got Wolves, elite NBA mind takes. Well done, Pete. But then he slid in the other family member.
Yeah, he did.
And his howl was high end.
Yeah.
We're going to consider all that, okay, for the old 1040 or the old 1147 coming up here in an hour and a half.
Now he could have been doing that just to try to ingratiate himself to the hosts, which is possible. And he also, technically did not follow the rules, but I think we like our rule breakers, and I like somebody who thought outside the box. So
The way I laid it out
I'm inclined.
was your elite NBA mind takes on how the Wolves will beat the Lakers matter, as does your how amplifying the talkback.
Yes.
So I didn't say, hey, and by the way, let's not forget about our family members about ready to head to Las Vegas and hopefully upset the Golden Knights. Going to slide one of those in there, too, and I think is going to give you a better chance.
And from a timing standpoint, he didn't get cut off mid-take or mid-howl at 30 seconds. He handled. I mean,
it's a strict 30.
It was a tightly packed carry-on piece of luggage that gave us everything and more. So Pete was good. How about this one?
What's up? This is Devin from Minneapolis. We got to beat Luka Doncic by throwing Jalen Clark and Gnaw at him. We've got to make him sweat out those lonely blonde beers. And Finch has to pull the right levers at the right time. That's how we beat him with our deep team. And yeah, I'm stoked, man.
Thank you, Minneapolis.
Good howl, and I like that he went down to very precise personnel matchups.
Yeah.
So he kind of ran out of steam.
What's the what blonde?
It's a local. It's a little presumptuous that Luka Doncic would be drinking Fulton beer, a local brewery, but it's good beer.
Okay.
And so I kind of ran out of steam, but then he hit us back with that elite howl. I like that.
Yeah, the howls are high end.
All right.
You want to give us one more, then we'll get into the play-in games and NBA Finals predictions.
Yes, sir.
This is Gary from Des Moines.
Hey, Gary.
The T-Wolves will win because we have elite perimeter defenders, Jaden McDaniels, Nah, Ant's even a good defender. They're all going to shut down Luka and LeBron. Our depth is so much better than theirs. Also, Rudy's been on fire as of late, grabbing boards and dunking. Oh, and we got a guy named Anthony Edwards. The Ant-Man will take over and take us over the top.
Thank you, Ely.
Ely. What are we going to do with Mike Conley on defense?
What do you mean?
Well,
he played on average 24 minutes a game during the season. I think I would expect that's about what he's going to play in this series.
Yeah.
I would expect DiVincenzo to run the point as much, if not more, than we saw later in the season when Conley's not in the game. Nickeil Alexander-Walker can also run the point.
Yep.
It's with Chris Finch, with the head coach. He's not of the quick trigger variety. In other words, Howl Nation, at certain times, and I'm not saying the fan base was wrong, as loud as it was, but the single biggest piece of frustration fans would have with the way certain games were going was, okay, well, if this is happening, then why aren't Clark, Shannon Jr., Dillingham, Garza, why aren't players like that playing more? So Chris has been hesitant to break the norm of what he trusts most. But emphasis on the last part of it. It's what he and the staff trust most. So I'm curious to see if, like you said, Conley on defense. If JJ Redick's making some plays, well, Conley gets Reeves. Okay, so that's it. But Reeves is quick. He's not super fast, but he's quick. He gets to the line a lot. He's very adroit at the shoulder shake, the pump fake, and getting to the line. Now, Mike's crafty. Mike doesn't bite on that a lot. So I think that's worth monitoring.
And Reeves has got to be like 4 inches taller than Conley.
Maybe. Yeah, Austin Reeves ain't big. He ain't tall.
But he was, 6'5", 6'6".
Maybe.
I liked what you were talking about yesterday, and I don't mean to switch off of Conley because that has to be part of it. But you were talking about Jalen Clark, and it's
That's
not like
where I was going next.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's not like Clark's a sacrificial lamb here
I've
in
talked
totality.
myself into this.
But I love it, and I'm thinking specifically more maybe second halves, late third quarter, early fourth type of stuff, where he is obviously off the bench second unit guy. But your ability, if like, okay, well, this Luka thing, it just isn't stopping. And we have to figure out something to put on 77 or whoever it is. Reeves, another good example from a shot making perspective. Jalen Clark, I loved where you were going with that yesterday.
The Wolves are going to win this series. And they're going to win this series because they're going to wear down certain facets of the Lakers they could not with the Mavericks. All right? Doncic and Kyrie, fantastic. Luka and LeBron, fantastic. Okay, so you can push it, do whatever you want with that. It's formidable. With Jalen Clark, I think there is an opportunity, depending on your team foul situation. Okay, we don't want to put him at the line with 6 minutes to go in a quarter. But Clark can beat up Luka Doncic. All right, now defend him. But you know what? If you take a foul or two here and they're aggressive but not getting any tees or anybody, beat him up. Okay, he doesn't like that. Luka does not like defenders contacting him. Playing really, really physical. He gets flustered.
Are you suggesting he might flop?
Well, that could be part of it too. But with Clark, put on the metaphorical boxing gloves, and that's your role. And you beat that kid up. Okay, you beat him up, and we'll take the fouls. We will deal with the fouls, but you let him know when you're in the game and with our approach, you can't do it to LeBron. He'll laugh. He'll get calls. He'll roll around you and dunk. With Luka, he may step back and do the Caitlin Clark logo bit, and he can do that.
He does.
But you got to let them know we're not just here to howl. We're here to fight because we can do that. The Timberwolves can be an incredibly physical team. Now, last year with Luka and Kyrie, it's unfair to look at that dynamic duo, how it was or was not defended in the Western Conference Finals compared to this year. The Wolves had 3 seconds to breathe and come up for air after beating Denver in the most dramatic game in the history of Timberwolves basketball.
Yeah.
The walk-off in Game 7. Okay.
That was a tired team.
And yeah, right. Okay. This one is not. And we're, we talked about it last year, and elite NBA minds know this, but we're going to see it again. Anthony Edwards' defense is highest of high end when that's the focus. And yes, he does need to get his shots. Yes, he will play.
Well, he'll take his shots.
40 some odd minutes a game if it's the right kind of game. But he's 23. Okay. Anthony Edwards can lock you down on defense. We saw it last year. Jamal Murray wanted nothing to do with Anthony Edwards, and Edwards would meet him at the opposite free throw line and say, get in his slide spot and say, bro, let's go. And Jamal couldn't get around him. And Jamal Murray's good.
Very good.
So Anthony Edwards his defense is a major, major factor in this thing. And I think that's going to be eye opening. I can't say I like the Wolves quite a bit in this series, but I do like the Wolves to win this
6,
series.
7.
I don't know. I really don't know. But I feel comfortable that the Wolves will win this series. I feel comfortable with the play-in games tonight. I like both road teams tonight. I think Miami's going to embarrass Atlanta. What we saw with Trae Young the other night, unacceptable. Holding the ball from the referee, acting like a child.
What did he do? I didn't see this.
He got a couple of tees. And he got pissed off, and then he fake threw it at the ref. The ref's like, give me the ball. Fake threw it to him, okay? And then that was his second tee, I believe. But then he's walking away. Seriously, I'm not over-exaggerating this. It was a child taking his ball and going home. So Trae Young's walking by the scorer's table. Referee wants the ball. So instead of throwing it to him, he threw it with so much reverse English on it, it bounced in front of the ref, right back to Trae. It was a boomerang basketball, and he walked to the mouth of the tunnel and then dropped the ball. He's a child. He's good. He's a child. Grow up, man. And now you got Spoelstra, one of the great coaches in the history of the NBA, with Tyler Hero, who is every bit as good as you and better in the postseason than you, and it's not even close. Bam Adebayo, and a coach that is squared away and knows how to win these games. So I like Miami a ton tonight, actually. And I like Dallas at Memphis. And Memphis is no bargain. They were getting blown out by Golden State. It was embarrassing. They made a nice run. But I like, for some reason, my instinct is leading me the way of the Mavs tonight. Simply off what they did at Sacramento. They got some momentum. They got some confidence. Anthony Davis, that 27 he had the other night was fantastic. They have an undrafted guy named Brandon Williams who's playing out of his skin. Klay Thompson caught fire the other night.
Yeah, he was good last night.
It looked like Golden State Warrior Klay Thompson. I just don't like Memphis. They fired their coach 3 weeks ago. Yeah. Just the whole thing's weird. Jaren Jackson Jr. has regressed. Desmond Bane he's a wonderful scorer. He's super in and out. He can't get his own shot. So that he's reliant on a lot of mid-range stuff and some threes. I've just never trusted Ja Morant that much. I like Ja. I mean, Ja's good. Don't get me wrong.
He's very good.
Yeah, super fast. But my basketball loving heart is leading me the way of both road teams tonight.
Do you think the Mavericks feel like, most people assumed after the trade they were dead in the water organizationally and they would not even be here.
Mm-hmm.
You got to assume that those players for Dallas feel like they've got a sizable chip on their shoulder.
I'm telling you right now, this Nico Harrison, if Kyrie Irving doesn't get lost for the season, he had this thing set up and he's not like, hey, shut up, I know more about it than you, I got the job, you don't have it.
Yeah.
He took his hits, a lot of them, for the Luka trade.
Yeah.
Well, then Kyrie got lost for the year. Yeah. But with Kyrie, Klay Thompson, Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, and P.J. Washington, or Derek Lively and P.J. Washington, or Derek Lively and Gafford with Davis, or Davis is out, Washington's in, that he knows what he's doing. Now they lost Kyrie. No, but I would not have had a problem putting Dallas probably in the second round. Western Conference Final would be a little too grandstandish, but I got respect for what they had in front of them, but it was for naught when they lost Kyrie Irving.
Well, I think halfway through that first game with Anthony Davis, people are like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, this kind of makes sense. This kind of works.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Then he gets hurt. I think the team dead in the water did not happen, as you mentioned, until Kyrie got hurt.
I do like him tonight, though.
There's...
You nailed it the other night, where it's like, 4.5. Mavericks are getting 4.5. That's too much.
Yeah, and they're getting 6 tonight.
Yeah.
6 against Memphis. I think Memphis, because of how they were kind of out of it and drove their way back into the mix.
Yeah.
And this is not certainly the Golden State Warriors team that we were talking about even 3-4 years ago, but I think they'll win at home. I think it's going to be close, though. I think it's absolute. I think it's absolute nail biter, and I would not be surprised if Dallas does indeed win. I mean, just the way two middling and inconsistent teams. Dallas because of injury. Memphis has been banged up, but right now it is a Ja Morant that's kind of an all or nothing equation. And Bane, I like Bane's ability to score.
Oh, he can score.
Ooh. But he will be that fill out box score guy where he'll be on the boards quite a bit tonight and such. And he, if you see him high in assists, that means the guys around him are making shots. Yeah. And that's good for the Grizz.
That's a great take.
Miami,
like
however.
Luke Kennard.
Correct.
Yeah, like the Kennards of the world win series and win big games.
And if your guy Jaren Jackson can hit a couple of threes, and get his box score rolling, it's going to be a good night for them. I'm with you on Miami. It's Spoelstra has this thing figured out. Andrew Wiggins, by the way, is having really productive games for them, so he fits in well.
And Khalil Ware and Haywood Highsmith was out of his mind the other night.
Don't forget about Davion Mitchell.
Wow.
And so I think they win. I will say this, though. I think Trae Young is great tonight. I think Trae Young comes back with you on the immaturity factor. Home. But he's absolutely, he's a 30-plus game tonight. Dyson Daniels will have his opportunities.
Yep.
But still, not in the class of Spoelstra and the Heat. So
and I would not be surprised if that transpired. I was thinking a lot about that, too, yesterday when I was writing this out. Yeah, that very well could happen. But when you show up a referee on national television the way he just did.
So dumb.
You think the next 3 are going to give him a break?
No.
He won't get a 50-50 call tonight. No. I don't care if they play the game in his childhood home backyard.
No, a referee will literally swallow a whistle before giving him an opportunity at the line.
Right.
Heimlich the whistle out of him.
So I can't remember who the Warriors play in round 1. But
it's Warriors Rockets.
Yeah, I like the Wolves to beat the Lakers in that series. I like Golden State to beat Houston in that first series, and I like the Pistons to beat the Knicks in their first series.
I know we don't have a ton of time on this. Isn't there an allure to kind of that Rockets team, man? Ime Udoka a year ago has him win like 18 straight to end the season. They were early stages of the year legitimately top 2 quality. Yeah. At least they were winning, but very inexperienced.
They stayed that way the majority of the year.
But now Van Vliet, like if you get elite Van Vliet,
I agree.
the Rockets can beat the Golden State Warriors. They have so many weird players that are absolutely boomer bust.
Yeah, the Rockets will be rather prohibitively favored in that series, I would guess. I haven't looked at it. I mean, the Rockets have to be minus 200 minimum.
You think so?
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it either.
You know what? Because people will bet Steph and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, and that's an MB3. I like Golden State tepidly in that series. I think Houston needs one more year to get this whole thing right, and then Katie bar the door next year moving forward. But I watched some Pistons-Knicks games this year, and it has a right to change in the postseason. But NBA world, if you haven't seen him, behold Cade Cunningham. And what you're going to see is he's one of the best point guards in the NBA. I think he's top 3, top 4. And I like the Pistons to beat the Knicks. What's the number?
Yes, Piston. Well, it's 166. Golden State is favored in that series.
Against who? The Rockets?
Against the Rockets, yeah.
You're telling me the 7 is minus 166 over the 2?
That's what I just saw. I'll go back and just verify that I'm not an idiot.
My bad.
Yeah, series betting, Warriors are minus 166.
Without home ice advantage. Crazy.
And then let me see here. I'm with you on the Pistons, by the way. Brunson hasn't played a game for quite a while. He's gonna, I think, make his debut this weekend in game 1.
He came back within the last few weeks. Unless he went out again.
Then he was out again.
Oh, wow.
So I think
he came back and was,
well, correct. And this isn't about an indictment on Cat, but like Josh Hart's banged up. And their shooting situation is a problem. OG Anunoby is 25, or he's 2 of 12.
Yep.
Those sorts of things. I think the
same
Knicks,
with Mikal Bridges.
And the Pistons, by the way, if they're going to get the 3-point shooting and they're going to get Cade, I mean, that's a tough ass team. Jalen Duren's been terrific on the boards for them.
The Knicks have nothing to stop Cade Cunningham, and I saw it 2 times this year.
Are you Pacers over the Bucks?
Yes.
Yeah, I am too.
Tepidly.
Cavs, whoever wins tonight, Cavs. Cavs are weird. Though,
I have the Celtics in the finals.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Probably OKC Thunder.
Yeah, I think it's got to be the Celtics. The Cavs, for me, like Donovan Mitchell's a guy that I have a hard time believing in at a high level. So good in the front court, of course they are, but the Celtics still, it's kind of their show.
Agreed.
And it's probably the Thunder right now. Let's see this Wolves team make a run, but it is kind of OKC's show in the West right now.
Let's call Alan Horton, play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He will be calling Game 1 of Wolves Lakers Saturday at 7:30 from SoCal, and you'll hear it on KFAN. The Box is next.
Inbound, Keontae George will dribble this one out. Timberwolves assure themselves of at least the 6th seed. They beat the Jazz in the regular season finale behind 43 points for Anthony Edwards. 29 of those came after halftime. The Wolves finished the season winning 17 of their final 21 games. They've got 49 wins, the 6th most successful season in franchise history.
Fox. Alan Horton, PA in charge. What's going on, my brother?
What's up, fellas? Great to be on with you.
You got those nice dulcet tones now.
That's a little early in the morning. The voice hasn't just kind of sort of woken up yet. So it's got some time.
My man, thanks for making time for us, too. Alan Horton, Radio Vox, 7:30 Central. Saturday, you'll hear him on FM 100.3, KFAN at Wolves Radio, if you'd like to follow him via Twitter. Fun series. How excited are you for this series?
I'm really excited. I think it's kind of fun to be playing someone other than Denver, Dallas, or Memphis, which we've seen to play, every year for the last 3 years. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. And with LA becomes a much bigger spotlight. I mean, this thing feels like it's a Western Conference Finals matchup. When you got LeBron and Luka and the bright lights and the yellow and gold of the LA Lakers and what that franchise means and the attention that they get, it feels like a big-time series.
Alan, how important was it to avoid the play-in and get this extra time off for this team?
I think it was everything, Charge. It was, in my eyes, that was a huge part of last year's successful run to the Western Conference Finals, is you finally avoided the play-in because the Wolves had been in it the prior 2 years. And I know there's some examples of teams going into play-in and then making a run to the finals. I think at least to the conference finals. I think Miami did it out of the East, but that's a whole different animal. And it's just not a long-term recipe for success. You need that week to recuperate, rest up, focus in on the game plan, get dialed in, and then attack the series. And then the Wolves did such a good job of that last season, that first round against Phoenix, that they got more time off heading into that Denver series, which probably made a huge difference too. And I really think the Western Conference Finals might have been different. I don't know if the outcome would have been different. I know it would have been a longer series had the Wolves just, well, I think when you look back, they missed an opportunity to close out Denver in less than 7 games. Had you done that in 5 or 6, you could have had an extra day or two, which I think would have been huge because you went to Game 7, the Wolves spent the night, they flew their off day basically, which kind of wiped out the entire day, and then the next day you're playing Game 1. They didn't have that preparation time. And I think that's where Chris Finch and his staff are at their best. When you give them time to prepare, that's a good thing for Minnesota.
Yeah, agreed. They came out of the Denver series 7 games, and they were so worn down by that, and then showed up, and now you have to handle Luka, and that was ended up being tough. They've got to handle Luka again now, but now they come in fresh. So what's the approach on trying to slow Luka in a way that they were not able to last year? Obviously, different supporting cast around him. What do you think Chris Finch throws at him?
Yeah, I think having the preparation time is enormous, especially when facing someone like Luka, who just, they've now spent 3 or 4 days watching film, getting on the practice floor, going against Joe Ingles, who's the de facto Luka on the scout team, and he's a really good example of Luka, other than the fact he's left-handed and Luka's right-handed. But they kind of play the same way, and Joe's got the size to kind of imitate Luka and do some of the things in the passing that Luka does. But when you're facing someone at the elite level of Luka, you do need days to practice, and you do need a week to prepare for that. And I think the Wolves want to try to, along the same lines of Nikola Jokic, try to make him a scorer, not a passer. The numbers for L.A. and for Luka's teams, whether he's with Dallas or L.A., they're better when he's a passer. They're more dangerous that way. And the same thing happens with Denver. When you let him get 8, 9, 10, 11 assists, you're in trouble because now other people are involved. You want to make him a scorer. You want to, you're kind of picking your poison with Luka. Do you settle for a step back 3 that he loves to take? Do you settle for mid-range pull-ups in the paint? He gets fouled. He can hurt you at every level, but you kind of have to force him in. You want to force him into that mid-range, right? So if he is hitting tough shots, it's for 2s. It's over the long arm of Jaden McDaniels. I think you want to stay home as much as possible. Once you start doubling and blitzing him, then the ball's out of his hands. Now you're shorthanded. They've got, Austin Reeves is probably getting his due, but he's underrated in my opinion behind Luka and LeBron as an option. I mean, this guy can create. He can get to the foul line. He can knock down big shots, especially in clutch moments. We've seen that this year. So he's a really special number 3 player for them. But it just creates a ton of handful. We haven't even discussed LeBron James, like one of the greatest players of all time. It's nice having him on the wing off of Luka if you're the Lakers.
Vox. Alan Horton. What advantages in this series do the Timberwolves have that absolutely have to come to fruition to win this series?
Well, it's interesting. The Lakers have one more win than the Wolves do, but the Wolves statistically have been a better team this year. They've got a top 10 offense. They got a top 10 defense. The Lakers, even with their trade, they've been outside the top 10 in offense and defense. To me, I just want to see the Wolves play solid. Just everybody, they're going to likely play 8 guys. Maybe Jalen Clark gets some minutes. Everybody's got to contribute and do. Nobody has to do anything crazy above what they need to do. Everybody just has to be solid. And if the Wolves do that, they're the better team in the depth department. You get beyond Luka and LeBron and maybe Austin Reeves. The Wolves have the advantage. Chris Finch has said all season, hey, we have 8 starters on this team. Dante, Nikhil, and Naz can all start. And they've shown that they can start and be successful. But I think the Wolves need a balanced attack. And if they have a balanced attack, that's speaking to their depth, and I think they've got the advantage over LA in that department.
Alan, a lot of our talk this morning has been around Naz Reid in different ways that you can utilize him against the Lakers. What role do you see Naz playing in this series?
Yeah, so Naz is a guy that I think's got to play. He's got to play up to his capabilities, and he can't just settle for 3-point shots. And if a couple of those don't go, then he gets down on himself. We've seen Nosby kind of get wrapped up in the results of what happens to him offensively. He's got to be equal parts outside and inside, because that's when I think he's at his best, when he's got that balanced attack offensively. And especially the Wolves do want to attack the Lakers inside. You know, they don't have Luka doesn't have the same running makes in Gafford and Lively that he did last year with Dallas. And the Lakers did not pull off that trade for Mark Williams and get some size to protect the rim. So the Wolves want to be big inside. They want to attack the rim. And Naz has got to be a part of that. He and Julius and Rudy, I think, have to play large in this series, because if there's a weakness when you look at the Lakers, it would be at the rim and protecting the paint.
Alan, with Rudy Gobert, what? Because I mean, you watch all the games, man. You talk to all the right people. So what are you hearing, or what do you think when it comes to the best routes for Rudy Gobert to just have massive offensive games? I mean, I'm talking about 16 points. The rebounds will come. I'm talking 15, 16, 17 points or more a game.
The way he's been playing basically since he came back from the back injury in mid-March. I mean, he's played incredibly, and you never want to lose a guy for a period of time, but that may have been a blessing in disguise, because Rudy has come back and played with a vengeance. He's averaging right around what you're talking about, 15 points. He's getting you 13 rebounds. He's shooting 71% from the field. And what I like most about the way he's playing, PA, is the fact that it's not just on the defensive end. He's got the third best defensive rating over the last 17 games since he came back from the All-Star break. But his offensive rating, when he's on the floor, the offense is clicking. And he's a big part of that. And when he gets going inside, it's crucial to me. And that's why I say, like, everybody, I think, has to just do their job. And when Rudy's doing his job, to me, it looks like 15 and 12 and 13 rebounds, get a block, affecting shots left and right in the paint, and helping that offense thrive. That's, if he's making good decisions with the basketball too, when he sets a screen, they give it to him on the short roll. He's got to make the right passes on the kick out, because the Wolves do have to take advantage of the 3-point line. They have not, even though the 4 meetings I think you throw out against the Lakers, because 3 of them came before the Luka trade. 1 of them was with Luka, but that was without Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert. Ant got kicked out. That game's almost a throwaway as well. But when Rudy is finding guys on the perimeter, I mean, that just helps everything open up offensively. And the offensive numbers have been equally as good as the defense when he's been on the floor these last 17 games.
You mentioned Julius Randle, and while we're talking about attacking the rim, Randle's somebody who can do that. Timberwolves have won 22 of the last 26 games in which Randle has played, if you go back to January. And for Randle himself, just as a person, this is the best team he's ever been around. His best opportunity to go to playoffs. There's so many bad teams throughout his career. I got to believe that Randle is going to be an important part of this, and this moment is not going to be lost on him. This is a unique opportunity for him career-wise.
Yeah, I agree, Charch. I was a little surprised when I look back and see, updating some playoff numbers, and I'm like, wow, this is only the 3rd time he's been to the playoffs. Yeah. And he said the other day at media that, but this is by far and away the best team he's been on, with a chance to go deep in the postseason. And he's right. He didn't play last year in the postseason for the Knicks because he was hurt. 2 years ago, they did not have the same team that they had last year. And then one other trip, they got knocked out in the first round. So, he is loving this opportunity. It's been a big week for Julius. I just talked to him yesterday a little bit. They just had their 3rd child, which is, everything went smoothly, and they timed it perfectly, and it's worked out. And, he's just in a really good place. And I think what we've seen from Julius since he came back from the groin injury is that finding his way in this structure of an Anthony Edwards led team, his role is not going to be 25 points a game. He's cut back on his scoring. He's finding his roles, finding his niche on this team. And when, he's assisted more 3-pointers than any other player on the team. And so when he is setting up threes on the perimeter and doing his damage inside, that is equally as important as all the things that Ant does offensively. So Julius has got to have a big series and do things like, have average around 20 points, probably get close to 10 rebounds, and he's going to get 7, 8, 9 assists per game. I think those are good signs if the Wolves are playing well.
Fox.
How can, if in any way, Jalen Clark impact this series?
We did see Jalen against, it was because Anthony Edwards got kicked out of the game, though, ejected in the third quarter, that Jalen Clark got reps on Luka Doncic, and he ended up fouling him quite a bit. I think that's a daunting task for any young player to go up against someone of the quality of Luka and expect to bottle him up one-on-one. I think if you do see Jalen Clark, it's going to be in kind of the role he's been in the last couple of weeks here, where he's like the 8.5 players, because Chris Finch is not going a full 9 where that ninth man is playing, 10 to 15 minutes. And Clark usually is only getting around 5, maybe in the first half. But you love the way he defends. He's physical. And you may need him. You may need him at some point if there's foul trouble, if there's someone goes down with a slight injury or something. So, to answer your question, it's going to be tough for him to see the floor, I think, for significant minutes. Right. But when he does, you've got to be positive, and that might not mean scoring the basketball, but can you keep the lead where it is when you're on the floor? Can you be a plus in the plus-minus column in the 2, 3, 4 minutes that you get during certain stints?
Alan Horton is the voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves. How does Chris Finch deploy Mike Conley defensively? I'm a little bit worried about these matchups because of the size differential. How do you think that part of it's going to play itself out?
Yeah, it's a fascinating piece to it, Charch, because the Lakers love to hunt mismatches, and Mike Conley is at a point in his career where if he's on the floor a ton, teams will attack him defensively. And what the Wolves, I think when they found success in this second half of the season, winning 17-21, they really found a sweet spot for Mike as far as his minutes are concerned, like in that 23 to 25 range. I think it probably is going to get extended a little bit in the postseason, but if it goes too far, then Luka starts to hunt you, then LeBron starts to hunt you, and then that's breaking down your defense, and maybe you're doing things you don't want to do. Like I said, I think they want to play straight up and try to stay home on everybody and just do the best job they can on Luka. I mean, that obviously can change if he starts to go off like he did in the Western Conference Finals last year. But they do have to be concerned about Mike getting picked on because, let's face it, he would be the weak link out there in certain lineups and someone that Luka and LeBron would certainly hunt.
Alan, Vox, last one. Appreciate the time, brother. And Julius Randle. All right, so the trade goes down with DiVincenzo. Cat goes over there, whole thing. We all know that. But if you had the belief that when they get to the postseason, what they can do with a high-end ball-handling big like Julius Randle. Okay, his Karl Anthony Towns is a fantastic player. He never has or never will be as good of a dribbling playmaker as Julius Randle. So if you believe that to be the case, which I know we do, Julius the passer, like how do you think the Lakers handle, because you can't double everybody. Randle can bully you and beat you off the dribble. And then if you double, his passing is very good. How much of a factor is that?
Yeah, I mentioned it. He set up more three-pointers than any other player in the league. It wasn't any of the guards. It was Julius Randle, and that's what he does at a really high level. And I don't know that you can, if you want to single up on Julius or double him, even if he gets in the paint, that leaves people open on the perimeter. And I think what'll be paramount is that the guys knock down threes. And it's weird that I mentioned the 4 games against the Lakers. The Wolves just didn't. It's probably one of their poorer 3-point shooting against any opponent in the league. And I don't know if there's anything into it or not as far as how they're defending, but it's, the Wolves need to knock down threes, and they need, speaking of the Cat Julius dynamic, well, let's add Dante to it because he's a big part of this, and he's going to be one of those guys that Julius can find on the perimeter. And Dante, since mid-December, has been the third best 3-point shooter in the NBA, and he's knocking down almost 3.5 threes a game, which puts him in the top 10 since that mark. So he has just found an absolute comfort level within this team, within his role in this team, and so it's going to be crucial. They want to get it to Julius. They want to get him inside. He can do damage in the paint, and then he can distribute. I mean, everybody's really done a nice job of finding Rudy and finding perimeter shooters, and I think that's got to continue. Like I said, it's got to be a total team effort up and down the lineup. And if the Wolves do that, they could come in here and very much I could see them dominating game one. I could see this game one going a lot of different ways. That's what makes it so fascinating, I think, tomorrow night.
Super excited to listen to you tomorrow night, 7:30 Central. God bless you this Easter week, my brother. Likewise for your family. It was awesome meeting your family before that Wolves-Spurs game. And have fun, and look forward to seeing you next week, all right?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Appreciate it, guys. Jim Pete is going to join me because it's an ABC exclusive. So Jim Peterson will be on the broadcast with me. We'll get underway at 7 p.m. Central, half-hour pregame show with Chris Finch. Julius Randle will join me, and then we'll get things underway from L.A., the bright lights of L.A.
Right on, man. It's going to be cool, and you're going to fire bullets. Bye, Alan.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Alan Horton at Wolves Radio via X, and he'll be on lead vocals on your favorite station, FM 100.3 KFAN, tomorrow at 7:30 for the game with the great Jim Peterson. All right, into the final hour. Our old friend Cy Amundsen is going to join us in studio shortly. He and some others have completed a film that just looks fantastic, and it involves a former member of the Minnesota Vikings. We're going to get into the Minnesota Wild before we're done. We're going to listen to more Wolves talkbacks because the opportunity to win a couple of tickets to Game 3 at Target Center between the Wolves and the Lakers next Friday, that's at stake. And we have 3 segments to settle that bet. We've had some phenomenal ones, and we will pay that off near the end of the show. You're listening to the Friday Football Feed.